Are you a family caregiver? Are you caregiving for someone who can no longer take care of themselves? Are you overwhelmed? This is Caregiver Solutions Info with Marcia Teal. Marcia will be hosting an hour of true stories and information, tips and updates of the latest research and necessary information in the caregiving field, focusing on you, the family caregiver. An Alzheimer's disease and dementia care expert, Marcia has 15 years of hands-on experience at Arden Courts, a leader in assisted living dementia communities here in the U.S. Marcia covers everything you need to know as a family caregiver, especially if you care for a loved one with Alzheimer's disease or other related dementia or chronic illness. If you have a friend or relative that is also a family caregiver, call them now. They won't want to miss a minute. And let them know they can watch on caregiversolutions.info. And they can listen on WNN 1470 AM in South Florida or nationally on the iHeartRadio app. Now, sit back, relax, and learn from our host, Marcia Teal, as she brings information to you that may just be the caregiving solution you need.
Hi, and welcome to Caregiving Solutions Info. Thank you for joining us today. We have a great show for you. Today is Tuesday, July 28th, 2015. And we have been talking about the 10 warning signs of Alzheimer's disease. There is a list of 10 warning signs put out by the Alzheimer's Association, and every week we're talking about each one. And so I think it's important for people that want to be aware of, is this happening, to somebody that I know, to somebody that I love, or maybe, is it happening to me? So we're going to be up to number 7 today, but I'm going to recap for you very quickly. Number 1, general memory loss. 2, difficulty performing familiar tasks. 3, problems with language. 4, disorientation to time and place. 5, poor or decreased judgment. 6, problems with abstract thinking. And this week we're talking about misplacing things. Now, every week we talk a little bit about what each one of those things mean, and obviously misplacing things is a biggie. There are lots and lots of examples that I could give you. For instance, somebody might take off their watch and put it in the sugar bowl. It's got a little dish, it's got a cover. You might think it's like a valet. It's a sugar bowl. That would be obviously inappropriate, misplacing things. They put it in the wrong place. For instance, somebody might put an iron in the freezer. Obviously, that's not right. And so when things start to go missing, when things are showing up in inappropriate places, that would be a warning sign, and we want to take notice of that. There are lots and lots of examples, but I have to tell you that this week, misplacing things was very, very timely for me. And I have to tell you that the night before last, I was watching television, and I was alone watching a movie, and it was late. I stayed up late. It was a school night. Wasn't a school night, so I stayed up late, and I turned off the TV with the remote control, and I went to bed. And then it came Sunday night, and I'm looking for the remote, and I can't find it, and I'm looking everywhere. Well, obviously, you look under the cushions, you look in the cracks of the couch. I look under the couch, I can't find it. I'm going room to room looking for the remote. Where did it go? I know the cat didn't walk off with it. Nobody else has been in the house. Where did the remote go? And it started driving me crazy. And I started trying to retrace my steps, and I went in every single room of the house. Perhaps I walked in here. Maybe I had it in my hand. Maybe I laid it down. Where did it go? And then it got me so crazy looking for it that I started actually looking for the remote in the refrigerator, in the pantry, seriously. And I'm like, what happened to it? Where could I have put this? And I went to bed, and I still couldn't find it. And I woke up first thing in the morning. I was looking for that. Before I went to work, I said, I'm going to call, check one more time. And lo and behold, I finally found it way under the seat of a different chair that I didn't even realize I had been sitting in. So the moral of the story is, no, it's not a warning sign for me. Why? Because I figured it out. Because I retraced my steps. I was able to retrace my steps and then figure out where it was. It wasn't in an inappropriate place, and I could figure it out. a person that really is losing their memory and having the warning signs of dementia and Alzheimer's, they're not going to be able to retrace their steps because their memory loss is going to prevent them from going back in the recent history and figuring out what they did, where they went, where it could be. So the good news is I'm okay. And that's what we want to watch for. A lot of times people do misplace things, and that's because they're not aware of what they're doing when they're doing it. And so if we're more aware and have a purpose and have a plan, we can prevent ourselves from getting crazy like that. And you want to always have a place for something. So if I had one particular place every single time that I turned off the TV and I put it somewhere, then I would always know and I wouldn't have gotten crazy. So if you take off your watch, put it the same place every single time. Keys, that's a biggie too. People rush in the house, throw their keys on the counter, maybe put them in different places, and then they can't find their keys. It doesn't mean it's a warning sign. It means that maybe you're stressed out, maybe your life is too hectic and you're too busy, and you need to pay attention, and then you'll have a less stressful life, and you won't be always wasting time looking for things that really aren't lost. You've just forgotten where you've put them. But the good news is if it comes back to you, you're okay. So that's number 7, and we'll continue to talk about different warning signs. If you haven't been able to catch us earlier, go onto the caregiversolutions.info website. You can pick up prior shows, and you can check out numbers 1 through 6, and then you'll be up to date. Or if you're interested in having a list of the warning signs and having this pamphlet from the Alzheimer's Association, we can make that available to you too. So that's what I wanted to say. Welcome again. Caregiver Solutions is for you, the caregiver. We have wonderful, professional, expert advice with guests that come on, and they're going to give you information and perhaps that could solve your problem and make you feel a little bit less fearful, make you feel a little bit less burdened from the chores of caregiving by some tidbit that you might learn on the show. So please keep tuning in. Let your friends and family know, and we appreciate you tuning in and watching. So this week's topic is going to be on focus of primary caregivers, meaning family caregivers, paid, non-paid caregivers. And the fact that caregiving is not easy, of course. It's sometimes so overwhelming that caregivers are fraught with all kinds of feelings that they never experienced before, and they don't know how to deal with it. And caregiving is very, very stressful because there's not a book that you can go and say, now you're a caregiver and 1, 2, 3, 4. Although there are wonderful caregiving books out there, unless you've already read them when you become a caregiver, you don't know what to do. Mm-hmm. So caregiving is all about education and getting support and getting help. And that's what we're going to be talking to you about today. So I want to start this session off. We have a caregiver, I believe, standing by, and she is a family caregiver with a unique situation. She has an interesting twist to her caregiving situation that I think you will enjoy hearing her story. Her name is Pat, and we're going to bring her on now. Pat, are you there?
I am. Hello, Marsha. How are you?
Hi, Pat. Thank you so much for joining us today on the radio. We appreciate your time. I'm so happy that you could join us because I know you're a family caregiver. And I want to know, first off, is it okay if I ask you some personal questions?
Yes, it's okay. Yes.
Okay. So I know that you told me that earlier that your husband had retired, and both of you traveled the world and enjoyed, your years of being able to spend time together. But then something happened. You got some bad news about your husband's health. What happened?
He was diagnosed with Alzheimer's. There's a few little things that I see that he was forgetting and couldn't understand why he was forgetting them. I am a caregiver myself for other people, and it was kind of an eye-opener when I saw that, and it hit me like a ton of bricks.
Wow.
You
So
know,
how did getting that diagnosis? I mean, can you describe how you felt?
lost. Lost. I felt lost, and it was so shocking because my husband is a brilliant man. He could do any numbers and calculate anything, and it really hurt. But the thing about it that got me through it, I learned from working with other people, taking care of other Alzheimer's patients. So it kind of gave me a front row seat, and it kind of gives me the experience to know how to handle it. But it's still hard when it's your own person at home that it happens to. When it happens at home, it's harder than when you look at somebody else's situation.
Right, because it's real personal. It's somebody that you know their history. You've been living with them for many years, and you know their history, and all of a sudden they're different, and there's nothing you can do about it. But when you're taking care of someone that has Alzheimer's, you know, perhaps you haven't known them for a very long time or not as long as your own spouse, and it is different because you don't have that basis for comparison.
All right. But, it was very traumatic for me, and for him it was even worse because he knows that he had Alzheimer's, he knows it, and that is the most hurtful part of it.
So he's aware of his condition.
Yes, he is.
So how do you cope?
Well, I turned to family and friends. I asked for help, and I got help, and that kind of helped me go through, for me not to be stressed out. It was really helpful when I turned to other people for help. And my friends and my family has been very, very good in backing me up, in everything that I do.
Well, that's wonderful. So, but I understand that this help that you have, companion help from friends and family, they're actually paid caregivers. Is that right?
They're paid family, yes. It's my family member who, still get paid, but my husband is comfortable with them in the home, and, he doesn't have to have some stranger come in to take care of him. So that was kind of a plus for me.
Right.
And I'm fortunate enough to have that.
So
I know some people don't have that cushion to fall on.
Right. Know? But, Pat, let me ask you a sensitive question, if you don't mind. If you're a caregiver and you take care of people with Alzheimer's, why would you have other people in your home taking care of your husband when you're working, right, as a paid private caregiver?
Well, two things, Marcia. One, the first one is my husband and I come to the decision that, I shouldn't stay home and waste away with him because, there are other alternatives, and he didn't want me to be stressed out and feel obligated to take care of him, even though I am obligated to take care of him, and that's my duty. But he wants me still to have a life outside of the home. And having a caregiver at home, it allows me to have a stress-free life. I really can live life, and he can live life, and, we're still loving each other and caring for each other, even though he's sick,
Well, that's
somebody else in the home.
Right. I think that's awesome that he was able to participate in that big decision.
Yes, he still can make certain decisions like that, and I appreciate him for that.
Right.
Because, it gives me free time to go and work with someplace else, and I'm there for him whenever time he needs me.
So he has, he still has his interest, and the companions that you have in the house, I know he doesn't need a lot at this point in time, but what kind of things do they do for him?
Well, they fix the meal sometimes for him. They don't help with showers or he groomed himself all the time. But taking him out for, to the store, taking him shopping, just go out to the park and stuff like that, keep him occupied, that he's not at home just wasting away.
Right, so there's...
Go to activities, go to play dominoes, go to visit his friends,
Right, so there's interaction.
Yes.
And he has interaction.
And friends come over and play games with him all the time and, just entertain him, that he's not bored and become depressed. Because I am so fortunate that he's not depressed.
That's great. And then you work 5 days a week with your job, and you have 2 days off, right?
Right.
So the days that you're off, then you get to spend with him, and then you're the primary caregiver. But just like any job, you get a respite from being the primary caregiver, and so the time you spend together is very not stressful, and you're the wife.
It's so helpful. I couldn't have done it if I didn't have help at home. I would be stressed out and back down. And if it doesn't feel like that, it feels so good to go home and know that he has somebody there, to take care of him, and I don't have to worry.
Right, and you don't have to do it 24/7 if you like other caregivers sometimes do.
Right. I don't have that stressful. Because some people are just left at home with their loved one to care for, and it gets so stressful. I know that from having friends who have gone through that.
Right.
They don't know where to turn for help. But I'm sure there's other agency or people out there that, can help them.
So what advice?
Don't ask for help. I would advise people that are in this situation to ask for help. Ask friends, ask family, ask co-workers, seek help.
Yes. Yes, I'm so glad. I was going to ask you, what advice would you give to someone that's in your shoes as a spouse, taking care of someone at home? And that was the perfect thing, because ask for help. And
ask for help, because it's there for you. If it's always out there. There's help always out there for you to ask. Just, ask someone, talk to someone. Don't take on that load alone, seek help.
Right. Well, Pat, first of all, I think you're amazing, because you have such a good handle on this as a caregiver, and I know that your job as a private duty caregiver did prepare you for what has unfortunately happened to your husband, and not everybody, has that. And you're very brave to come on and share your story, and we really appreciate it, because I know there are a lot of caregivers out there that could relate to you. So I want to thank you for coming on, and take care. And again, thank you so much, Pat. So, wasn't that amazing? Here's a caregiver who is a caregiver at home and a caregiver at work. And she's found a way to make it work for her. And unlike a lot of caregivers, she has a good handle on it. But what happens if you don't have friends or family like Pat? What happens if your family is up north? There's nobody close by. What happens if you have friends that maybe aren't around, don't want to be around, don't understand what's going on? Maybe your friends have actually ostracized you from the group because they can't deal with, the changes in your spouse. What happens if you don't have, good friends to rely on? And then you're stuck again, 24/7 doing caregiving, and that's not good. So we're going to take a short break, and when we come back, you're going to have a solution to this problem. Stay tuned.
Arden Courts is not just a place to live, it's a place to call home. Residential living combined with quality caregiving. This is the philosophy behind Arden Courts. Communities created exclusively for individuals with Alzheimer's disease and related dementia who would benefit from a safe and structured environment. For additional information about any of the unique services Arden Courts provides, call 888-478-2410 to locate a community nearest you. Inquire about our educational seminars, resource library, or support groups, or simply feel free to ask questions you may have about Alzheimer's and related dementias. At Arden Courts, we know, we understand, and we can help, because memory care is all we do. Remember, call 888-478-2410 for additional information about any of the unique services Arden Courts provides. Do you need the advice of an elder law attorney but perhaps find it difficult or overwhelming getting to appointments? The solution is the Elder Law Department. They bring elder law, to you by meeting with you in the comfort of your own surroundings to discuss your personal situation and family needs. In practice since 1994, Heidi Friedman is a member of the Elder Law section of the Florida Bar. She and her team help families with issues that include incapacity and estate planning, asset preservation, veterans benefits, and other legal issues that seniors may face. Call the Elder Law Department at 954-383-1143. 954-383-1143. They bring elder law to you.
Hi, this is Marcia Teal of Caregiver Solutions Info. I'd like to tell you about Senior Home Companions. They provide care in the home for seniors by active seniors. The caregivers are mature men and women who understand the needs of seniors. Caregivers are individually matched to each client, creating a bond and a high level of comfort. A nurse registry, Senior Home Companions have been assisting seniors in Palm Beach County for 17 years. For a complimentary assessment, call Gloria at 561-347-6676 to see how a Senior Home Companion can help you.
You are listening to your host, Marcia Teal, an Alzheimer's disease and dementia care expert on CareGiverSolutions.info. If you have a question or wish to share a story, call into the show at 888-565-1470 and talk with Marcia. Now, back to Caregiver Solutions.
Hi, and welcome back to Caregiver Solutions Info. I'm Marcia Teal. I want to thank Arden Courts Memory Care Communities for being our national sponsor. Arden Courts is a 100% dedicated community for dementia, Alzheimer's care, and they're very big on educating caregivers, and they want to help. So I want to let you know that by just calling Arden Courts, the 800 number, you can get a free 36-hour day book or a free Still Alice novel. Both of these are available this month. Give us a call at Arden Courts, 888-478-2410. Tell them that you heard about it on the Caregiver Solutions Info show, and give them your name, address, phone number, and they'll be happy to send you a free 36-hour day caregiving book, which is awesome. If you have never read this and you're a caregiver, we'd love to send it to you because it's chock full of all kinds of solutions and tips and information just for you. Also, if you like to read and you want to read a novel and take a little bit of a respite and a little relaxation time, this novel is something that was made into a movie recently. It's called Still Alice, and it's about a woman in her early 50s that actually got diagnosed with Alzheimer's, and it goes through her story. So give Arden Courts a call at 888-478-2410, and if you want both books, then have a friend call, and then you guys can share. So give us a call. So we've been talking about caregiving, and we've been talking about caregivers who try to do it alone in the home 24/7. You've got a spouse perhaps that has Alzheimer's or some other type of dementia or some other ailment, and you've become the primary caregiver, and caregivers can't do it alone. And you are alone, but you can't do it alone. And so we've been talking to Pat. She called in. She's a caregiver, and she gave some great advice. In her case, she uses friends and family to give her that respite care that she needs. But in the case of somebody else who's not lucky enough to have friends and family, we have the solution for you. And so I want to introduce to you from Senior Home Companions, Gloria Jacobs and Janet Zweiback. Welcome.
Hi,
Thank you so
Marcia.
much.
Thank you for having us.
Gloria is the manager of Senior Home Companions, and Janet Zweiback is an RN, and together they help lots and lots of families. And so they're going to share with us the solution because they have a very unique service. What is your unique service that you have that's different for helping caregivers to help their loved ones in the home?
Well, for 23 years now, because the company is 23 years old, 17 years in Palm Beach County, we use seniors, active retirees, as caregivers to help that elderly or homebound person.
So these are actual professionals that are retired, and this is something that they want to do?
Yes. Some have been doing it for a number of years. Others have been in as teachers or nurses, bank people just have a number of different professions that they've worked in.
And this is, and they get paid for doing this.
They do. Mm-hmm. Yes. Mm-hmm.
And they enjoy maybe seniors. Is that why they want to do it, or they want a little extra income, or they have
Actually, both, Marcia. Some might just be living on Social Security, and it's nice to have some extra money. And others, and yet those people as well want to help. I mean, you have to have that in your heart to, to seek this kind of work.
Wow.
And the professional people, so to speak, those that are retired, I should say, they too just want to help. And it's so rewarding for them.
Wow. I love this idea of seniors helping seniors because your senior home companions are in the home, and they're not a regular aide, so to speak, because they're not doing hands-on medical. Is that right?
That's right. Our aides would, but our companions are really sharing their own life stories, their own life experience with that peer, and they communicate well.
Because that is their
relate
peer.
well.
Well, how important is using peers to help people in the home that I mean, I know it's a companion, so they're not doing any kind of medical or personal care, although you can provide that with other people. But the uniqueness is having these retired seniors as retired professionals being like a friend, really, right? They're like a friend to someone.
That is exactly what builds out of the relationship. Yeah, a friendship, a companionship. They relate well to one another because I am taking the time to, match them, so to speak.
Wow. So that leads me to a question. How do you match someone? Because I know that everybody has their own personalities, and there's a lot of idiosyncrasies that go on. And also, a lot of times, seniors that are in the home, a lot of them do have dementia. I'm sure that you do have a lot that are lonely and they have dementia. And others don't. They just might be homebound and they need a friend. So how do you match the two together? What kind of process?
Well, first, of course, we're meeting the client and finding out what their needs are. We also, and we do that in the home of the client, or if they're still in a hospital ready to go home. With the caregivers, we don't just accept an application from someone. We interview them in their home. So right there, you get to really know how they live, what their interests are. I've seen beautiful artwork on their walls, or a needlepoint, and immediately you start thinking, wow, this is going to be a good person to match with. And as you're doing your client interview.
So you're actually interviewing both the client and the potential companion to see what both their interests are to get them matched up?
Exactly, yes. The caregivers, of course, I already have. I have a number of them, many. And I just check the records to make that match. Yeah.
Wow, that's neat.
I had the opportunity and pleasure of sharing many cases with Gloria and her staff. And I brought Gloria into the fold by asking her to come with me to see a patient. This patient lived alone, and there were many challenges, as many of the patients are who have Alzheimer's disease or other neurological diseases. And I had been to her home, and I said, this is a perfect match for one of Gloria's caregivers. So I called Gloria, and I said, do me a favor, I have to go see this lady. Would you come with me? Of course, Gloria said yes. And I think I took you back on 2 separate occasions. And Gloria came as my friend. Again, because it was so important that this patient gain the trust. If you don't have their trust, you have nothing, and there's nothing further that you can do. So I was able to gain her trust. Gloria came with me. We sat with the patient maybe for an hour or two, You came back with me because she asked to see you. She says, "Where is your friend?
Where's
Can
your
I
friend?"
see her
Yeah.
again?" And then Gloria was able to develop that rapport with this patient. And if I'm not mistaken, it was a long time ago, because you and I go back many, many years, Gloria. You then went on your own and brought a caregiver you thought
Exactly.
would be a perfect match.
And here's my other friend, right?
Absolutely.
And a friend meets a
Exactly.
friend, and that's how it
Absolutely.
works.
Yes.
Continuity
Yes.
is important.
Right.
to
And
build
so how long does one of the companions stay on a case with a client?
It could be anywhere from a week to 8 years.
Wow, you have
Right
some
now,
that
I
long?
have someone 8 years.
That's a great
Yeah.
companion. That's a
Yeah.
great friendship.
Yes.
Yes.
Wow,
Yes.
that's awesome. So when after you match them up and you're getting to know what their interests are, maybe what they did for a living, that be something that they might have in
Yes.
common, whether
Yes.
I'm sure whether maybe they were in the armed services, because then they could talk about, the military, or sports or whatever they like. But once you find that, before you put someone on a case, what other things do you have to check before you actually put them in the home? Are there any kind of legal things you have to check?
Well, being licensed by the Agency for Healthcare Administration, and every agency is licensed under that State Department, the requirement is that they have a national background screening and fingerprinting.
Okay.
We do a 7-year driving test because of the caregiver, because we check their record for 7-year
Make sure no
period.
major accidents or
And-
anything?
and speeding or
Oh,
anything else that
okay.
might come up.
All right.
Because many times the client is no longer driving and doesn't have a car, so the caregiver uses their own car. So we have to make sure that their car is safe and.
Wow. So there's really a lot that goes into this.
Yes.
It's not just, here you go. So you do background checks, fingerprinting, check their driving records.
And then we're interviewing them personally as
Right.
well, right in their home.
Wow.
The beauty of using a senior companion is, first of all, they're mature. They have life experiences. They've seen a lot. They've heard a lot. They've been involved with a lot. Maybe their parent at one point had the disease, and they just know how to interact with a patient. They don't get excited. They don't get nervous. They just know what to do. And I found it just wonderful to refer to Gloria so she can have her companions see my patients when it was a good fit and when it was appropriate, of course. And I have to say something. I don't know if Pat is still listening. Pat, if you're still listening, I have 2 things to say to you. First of all, bless you for caregiving both inside and outside your home. Caregiving is a monumental task. And also the fact that you recognized you needed help. And I'd like to just talk very briefly about that, if I may, because I saw so many caregivers who were in denial. They felt, I can do it alone. I don't want anybody. I don't need anybody. And then there's the guilt and all the other feelings that come with it. And if you don't have a healthy caregiver, you don't have a healthy patient. And really the first step in any caregiving, no matter what the disease is, that you recognize the fact that you cannot do it alone.
Right. That's the
Yes.
first step. That's the first step, because
Yes.
I've known family caregiver spouses who actually are martyrs. And
Yes.
they're going to do it or
Yes.
die. And guess what? They'll probably end up dying.
They'll die before the patient
Right.
does.
Was it like over 60% of
Absolutely.
family caregivers pass away before the person they're
Yes.
taking care of from all the stress
Right.
that's there? And so they, they're martyrs and they're going to do it because I
That-
can
yes.
and I'm going to and
Yes.
I don't need help. And
Yes.
they end up in the hospital or worse.
It happens so
Right.
often.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
I've had a caregiver. I mean, I had 2 that really are in my mind for so many years, that never went to the movies. They never had 5 minutes peace. And I said to one of them once, I said, let me ask you something. When was the last time you sat in a bubble bath. And she said, I don't remember the last time I went into the shower by myself.
Wow.
And I convinced her to seek the help, first to recognize that she needed help. She called me a few days later crying. She says, you have done so much to help me. I says, what happened? She says, I sat in the tub.
Aw.
She says, I recognized the need. She says, I even asked a friend of mine to come in and sit with my husband so I could have a few minutes to myself.
Wow. So she had a breakthrough.
Absolutely,
She had a breakthrough.
yes,
And so
yes.
sometimes we have to push them a little bit to open up
Yes,
the eyes. And that's
yes,
tough.
yes.
Well, we're going to go to a quick commercial break. And stay tuned, because when we come back, you're going to hear some more success stories and more information that you need to know. Stay with us.
Take a pen and jot down this information. Right from the Heart assists families in finding the right living arrangements for their aging parents. Founded in 2012 by Sharon Agate, Senior Lifestyle Consultant, Sharon has counseled seniors and their families for over 20 years in clinical settings and in independent assisted living and memory care communities. Finding the right community can be overwhelming and time-consuming. Right from the Heart takes the stress and worry from you. Sharon will meet with mom or dad and evaluate their needs and lifestyle preferences and create a personalized plan at no cost to you. She will accompany you to visit selected communities and guide you every step of the way so you can be assured you're making a well-informed decision. Call Sharon at 561-374-4696. Sharon's promise to you is in your knowing that her advice will always come right from the heart.
Hi, this is Marcia Teal of CareGiver Solutions Info. I'd like to tell you about Senior Home Companions. They provide care in the home for seniors by active seniors. The caregivers are mature men and women who understand the needs of seniors. Caregivers are individually matched to each client, creating a bond and a high level of comfort. A nurse registry, Senior Home Companions have been assisting seniors in Palm Beach County for 17 years. For a complimentary assessment, call Gloria at 561-347-6676 to see how a Senior Home Companion can help you.
You are listening to your host, Marcia Teal, an Alzheimer's disease and dementia care expert on CareGiverSolutions.info. If you have a question or wish to share a story, call into the show at 888-565-1470 and talk with Marcia. Now, back to CareGiver Solutions.
Hi, welcome back. We're here in the studio talking with Janet Zweiback and Gloria Jacobs of Senior Home Companions. And we're talking about having companions that are seniors' peers into the home instead of a regular CNA or a home health aide, certified nursing assistant or home health aide. Certainly they can be provided also. But this is very unique, and I think for a lot of people, Gloria and Janet, that you have such a unique service. And I just love the idea of seniors being companions, right? And I know a lot of people that have dementia, especially the early stages of dementia and mild, they really aren't safe to be alone, and they do need some help. They need some supervision. But at that early stage, they're in denial themselves that there's anything wrong with them. And so if you place a certain type of caregiver in the home that they can't relate to, let's say, then I think they feel that they're being babysat. And they don't want to have someone in the home. I don't need that girl. I can do it myself. There's nothing wrong with me. I don't need that girl, right?
Absolutely.
You
Janet, I
sound
know
just like
Absolutely.
clients that I've interviewed.
I sound like a
Absolutely.
client,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Yes.
And I've heard it over and over and over from families, and they don't know what to do, and then they'll try somebody else. And especially for families that live up north, and let's say their parents or a parent is down here in South Florida, and they know that they can't be alone. They know they need someone there. And the problem with that is the family can hire an aide to go into the home, but guess what? If it's the client's own home, do you know that, I mean, you know, but do you know that is the home of the resident, of the patient, and they can actually say, get out of my house. I don't want
Yes.
you here. Leave,
right.
and they can fire them.
Absolutely.
right.
And they have every right to do that because
Yes.
it's their home.
Mhm. And
Exactly.
they have done that.
And they have done that.
Yes.
So now the son or the daughter goes to all the trouble to hire someone to go in the home, and now the dad is throwing him away. I don't need this, and now he's home alone
Right.
again. And it happens over and over and over again.
Yes.
So the difference with what you can provide is someone who is their friend, who looks like their buddy, who could be a neighbor that can relate to them, and they don't see it as someone who's watching me. They're
Correct.
not babysitting
Yes.
me. Right?
Yes,
absolutely.
And I love that because then they can go places together and do things, and they have fun, and it's more of a positive experience rather than a negative experience.
Yes, yes. And especially, when a patient lives alone or client, they're not safe. There are so many dangers that can happen. Driving a car, getting lost on foot, turning on the stove, forgetting to shut it off, not taking the medication appropriately, or all sorts of things can happen. And especially when there is a long-distance family, that's very difficult and very frustrating and very challenging. And I suggest that anyone who finds themselves in that situation, okay, that there is someone that you know and that you trust that can make that first initial contact with your loved one and then say, by the way, I have a friend. I'd love to bring her around. She could meet you. I think you would have such a good time together. She just moved to the area. She doesn't know anybody.
Right.
She's lonely.
It's natural.
And it's natural, and the two of you would get along so well. And that's how you start.
Well, I think that's fabulous, and both of you are awesome because you have the heart for it. You have the personality, and you know what you're doing, and that's the difference too. You know what you're doing. You oversee the people that you hire to do that for them, and I think it's a great service. But getting back to why people might not want this, I know, Janet, you mentioned earlier, the guilt. Someone just feels guilty having help,
Yes.
and you sometimes have to make that breakthrough to get them to realize that they need that. But what other causes do you think that someone would use as a roadblock to prevent them from getting that help or calling in for a companion? I think sometimes it's a control issue.
Yes, again, I can do it. I've been the spouse, I've been the daughter, I've been the husband, whomever that family member might be. No one can do it better than me.
Yes.
And I think too
Yes,
Gloria, did you want to say something?
The denial factor.
Yes.
Is
That they don't really need it.
Absolutely,
or they don't
absolutely.
really want to believe that something is happening.
There you
Yes.
go. They
Yeah.
put their head in the sand like
Yes.
an ostrich.
Absolutely.
And I think sometimes too that the well spouse, they might feel like, well, they're not doing it the way I do it. Well, maybe
Yes.
they're not, okay? And no one's going to do it exactly the way you would do it,
Right.
okay? You've been relating to this person all your life. No one's going to do it exactly the way you do it, but there's many ways to do things, and just because it's different doesn't mean it's bad.
Correct.
And so you have to relinquish a little bit of that control, all right, and let others help you because, otherwise, like we said, you're going to be the one down and out.
Yes.
And what about, sometimes I think cost might enter into it because people might think, well, I can't afford this. It would be nice,
Yes.
it'd be a nice luxury, but maybe I can't afford this. But from what I understand, the benefit that you're going to get mostly outweighs the cost.
Absolutely.
And the caregiver, the companion who comes in, it's not like they're there 24/7.
Right.
Of course, that's very costly in the home. But this is going to help you prevent from having to go that route, I think, by
Yes.
making things a little
Yes.
smoother, right?
Yes.
Yes.
I mean, a healthy caregiver means a healthy patient. you have a caregiver who does not accept the help, and like the book that you were showing before, Marcia, the 36-hour day, caregivers have told me it's like a 48-hour day. There's no sleep. You're not eating. You become irritable. You can become dehydrated. You can have all sorts of emotional and physical issues. And then you may lose your temper. Mm-hmm. You're not feeling well. You're not sleeping. You're not eating. You don't have a routine anymore.
Right.
And then you become frustrated with the patient.
And you take it out on them, and then
And
they
then,
don't
of course, there's the
Patient-
guilt feeling.
That's right. The
because of
patient
that,
picks
sure.
up on that in a second. And then they become agitated.
Right.
And then there's anxiety.
and it's a vicious circle.
And it's a vicious circle.
Right.
Yes.
Now, I want to let everybody know that we've been talking about having the retired professionals come into the home as a companion, but it doesn't have to be in the person's own home. It could be in a assisted living.
Yes.
And, of course, that is their home, but it's not a private home.
Yes.
And I know of lots of cases where a senior home companion would be ideal for someone in an assisted living. And let me give you an example, because I did work with Gloria on this too, and I thought it was a really good idea. We have, I've known a family that their mom lived in a independent or a regular assisted living, and the mom was just not socializing. She was staying more to herself. She was older, and she just started not being able to cope as well. And she was getting depressed because she never left her apartment. You know, when you're in independent living or assisted living, you have a lot of space and an apartment, and she never left to do activities for whatever reason. And she was very lonely, and the family was worried about her because she was hibernating and getting depressed. So Gloria came to the rescue, and she went to visit this lady and, hooked her up with someone, and then they could become friends and say, oh, you know what, I love to play bingo. Let's go together and do
Exactly.
this, and then start to get her involved
Yes.
in those activities at the assisted living, so
Right.
then other people get to know her too.
Yes.
Exactly.
And I
true.
think that
Yeah.
was a great story, because it doesn't have to be, just for someone in their own home. So if you are, an adult daughter or son, and you have a mom or a dad living in an assisted living that maybe they're floundering, maybe they're just not transitioning as well as
Yes.
you had hoped, then this is another way to get them involved.
Right.
I have someone right now that just one day a week, my caregiver takes her out for pizza and beer.
Oh,
She just loves her beer.
I think I want that job. I want that job.
No, I'm first.
We could all go for pizza and beer.
They spend 4
Yes.
hours a week, and
That is
The
terrific.
daughter is just thrilled.
Yes.
She lives up in New York, and she gets a report from the mom
See?
that things are going well, and so there's just different scenarios that
Whatever
you can
floats your
cover.
boat.
It's
Yeah.
great. You talked about before, Marcia, one of Gloria's caregivers coming into an assisted living, and the fact that this mom was not getting out, she wasn't active, she wasn't participating. It's important, too, that patient be in the appropriate setting, too. Not every facility is appropriate for every person.
Right.
And sometimes that's difficult for the family caregiver, especially when they live far away, to really grasp. Because to them it's saying, okay, my mom is deteriorating, she needs different kind of care.
Right. And then you can
And that's-
help with that too,
yes,
because
yeah.
you can be the consultant for
Yes,
that problem.
yes, yes.
Well, that's awesome. We're going to take our last commercial break, and then we will be right back with Janet and more from Gloria. So stay tuned. We'll see you in a minute.
Take a pen and jot down this information. Right from the Heart assists families in finding the right living arrangements for their aging parents. Founded in 2012 by Sharon Agate, Senior Lifestyle Consultant, Sharon has counseled seniors and their families for over 20 years in clinical settings and in independent assisted living and memory care communities. Finding the right community can be overwhelming and time-consuming. Right from the Heart takes the stress and worry from you. Sharon will meet with mom or dad and evaluate their needs and lifestyle preferences and create a personalized plan at no cost to you. She will accompany you to visit selected communities and guide you every step of the way so you can be assured you're making a well-informed decision. Call Sharon at 561-374-4696. Sharon's promise to you is in your knowing that her advice will always come right from the heart. Do you need the advice of an elder law attorney but perhaps find it difficult or overwhelming getting to appointments? The solution is the Elder Law Department. They bring elder law to you by meeting with you in the comfort of your own surroundings to discuss your personal situation and family needs. In practice since 1994, Heidi Friedman is a member of the Elder Law section of the Florida Bar. She and her team help families with issues that include incapacity and estate planning, asset preservation, veterans benefits, and other legal issues that seniors may face. Call the Elder Law Department at 954-383-1143. 954-383-1143. They bring elder law to you. Arden Courts is not just a place to live. It's a place to call home. Residential living combined with quality caregiving. This is the philosophy behind Arden Courts. Communities created exclusively for individuals with Alzheimer's disease and related dementia who would benefit from a safe and structured environment. For additional information about any of the unique services Arden Courts provides, call 888-478-2410 to locate a community nearest you. Inquire about our educational seminars, resource library, or support groups, or simply feel free to ask questions you may have about Alzheimer's and related dementias. At Arden Courts, we know, we understand, and we can help because memory care is all we do. Remember, call 888-478-2410 for additional information about any of the unique services Arden Courts provides. You are listening to your host, Marcia Teal, an Alzheimer's disease and dementia care expert on CareGiverSolutions.info. If you have a question or wish to share a story, call into the show at 888-565-1470 and talk with Marcia. Now, back to Caregiver Solutions.
Hi, and we're back. We are here with Gloria and Janet from Senior Home Companions. We've been talking about seniors, retired professionals that are companions in the home of a person who needs a friend, who needs somebody to talk with, an outlet, someone to play cards with, someone to take them golfing, all right? Because when people are lonely, they need someone to talk to them, especially if they're beginning to have some problems like getting Alzheimer's disease. It's not always easy for friends to be around. Friends will ostracize them, don't know what to say, don't know how to handle it. They just can't be their friend anymore, which is really sad. And some friends are through thick and thin, and you're lucky if you have that kind of a friend. But Senior Home Companions can come to the rescue. So, Gloria, I know that you have a lot of success, and you have wonderful success stories, but I know also that people are so glad and happy of the services that you provide that some of them even write you letters.
Yes.
And so I know that you have a testimonial letter, and I'd like for you to read that because I think this letter comes directly from a family who hired you to provide services for their father.
Exactly.
And this is a true story. It was a recent story.
Within the past 2 months.
Within the past couple of months. And so I want Gloria to read this letter to you word for word, and we'll listen.
Okay.
And get a little closer so we can hear you.
She says, when I first mentioned to my dad that I was hiring a caregiver, he resisted. Then he met Mary. He called her his girlfriend.
Oh, boy.
And they would go out on errands and out to lunch. He really enjoyed her company. Mary visited him several times while he was in the hospital, and then hospice. As you probably heard, I had just left hospice when Mary stopped by, and she held Dad's hand as he took his last breath.
Aww.
And she says, wow.
Aww.
I had the opportunity to spend some time with Mary as we chatted like old friends. I hope to get together with her when I return to Florida. Gloria, I would highly recommend Senior Home Companions, and especially Mary. As you know, this is the second time your group has helped my family. You really have a dedicated staff. Thank you very much. And this is Karen, the daughter of Hyman.
Wow,
Yeah,
that's
this
a
is special.
beautiful
Isn't that
letter.
nice?
It's
Yeah,
a
lovely.
beautiful. I got
Yes.
chills. Right?
Yes, yes.
A beautiful letter right from her heart.
There's a P.S. to this.
Oh.
Mary was a client in 1990. I think it was 1999.
How so? How was she a client?
Her husband was ill.
Okay.
And we took care of her husband so that she had respite. And once he passed away, she called and she said, Gloria, I'd love to become a caregiver. So she is present day my caregiver.
Wow.
Right there.
Now
She's
look
the
at
one.
that. All right.
She's the
so
one
she's
in the
giving
story.
she's giving back
what she received.
what she received for her
Yeah.
family.
And that's what
So
I
it's
was
very
talking.
rewarding.
That's what I was talking about before, about the mature caregivers who've had these life experiences themselves. So they certainly
right,
understand. Yes,
They
yes.
they understand, and these life experiences, especially for someone who has Alzheimer's disease, that can't relate to current events, can't talk
Right.
about what's happening on the TV. They can't follow a story.
Yes.
These companions can talk to them about things they can remember, and they
Yes.
can remember way back
The
when
old songs.
the old
way
songs,
back,
the
yes.
old
Yes.
Yes.
Dancing.
Yes.
the war,
dancing
maybe the
and-
Korean
Yes,
War,
yes.
the World War II,
World War II,
or
yes.
politics, or Babe Ruth, or any of those things
Yes.
that a person that maybe a
Those
younger
are the
person
things
or
that
they
someone
can
who can't
remember.
relate, so they don't really have anything to talk about because
Right.
they can't relate and talk about
Exactly.
that. And I think that is so important because
It is.
remembering, and for an Alzheimer's patient to be able to reminisce and talk about that makes them feel so good.
Yes.
Somebody that understands them and relates to them. I think that's awesome. So before we go, Gloria, Janet, tell our audience how they can get a hold of you.
We are on the web, www.seniorhomecompanions.com, and the phone number is 561-347-6676, and our toll-free number is 1-877-318-0207.
Okay, so give Senior Home Companions a call, and call Art and Course. Ask for your free book. We'd be happy to mail those to you. Stay tuned to next week for another great show. Thank you for joining us. Have a good night and give somebody a hug.
Thank you.
Yes, please do.
Thanks for joining us for this week's Caregiver Solutions with Marcia Teal. Join us next week as Marcia, who has 15 years of Alzheimer's disease and dementia care